Also, if you guys aren't playing the drinking game yet, where you take a drink every time we or Jesse shouts somebody out, you need to rewind and start playing.
Here we
Maybe
go.
we'll put a disclosure at the beginning of the episode just so you know.
Shouts out to the drinkers.
Just so you know, as you go through this episode, you need to take a shot every time he shouts out.
You should be drinking mezcal.
Yeah.
So 2019.
Yeah, I got my tooth pulled down there. From a connection I made in Alaska, actually, in Fairbanks. Someone gave me her dental recommendation.
Welcome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another episode of your favorite podcast.
And ours.
Indecent Disclosure.
Oh, yeah, that's what it's called. I always forget, honestly.
I always forget that.
I'm like, trying to find it to listen to ourselves, and then I don't remember what it's called. So it's okay. I always find it. Today is a little weird for me because I don't have my headphones on, so I feel kind of naked, but it's good because someone else is wearing the headphones, and we'll get to that in a moment. But they have my earwax in their ears, so we're now bonded for life, whether they like it or not. And we're just so excited because we're bringing you guys a very special episode today. We have a couple on that we kind of like, somewhat. Mainly they're just interesting, so we wanted to use them and put them on here. And yeah, we're gonna let them kind of introduce the background of how we know each other and how they met and everything. But to give you guys or to give them a little intro, I would like to say that we're just really honored to have Alex, or we all call her Lele, and her beautiful boyf, Jesse, on here today. They're just such a sweet couple. So genuine. They light you up the second you meet them, and we're really excited to get into it. So, Stevie, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I'm curious. I've been lucky enough to get to know these guys over the past few years, and I'm curious to hear more about their relationship and how it started, because in us just recently hanging out, I've gotten to hear more and more about it, and it's kind of romantic and very kind of fairy tale, and I love seeing that in other people's relationships and seeing other happy couples who are, just good people. So yeah, this will be a good one for you guys. I think you'll enjoy.
Also, on that note, you know how we're always talking about, if you're ever feeling lost and you want to, find a partner, and then you listen to Steven and I, and we tell you we are actually genuinely happy, so don't give up. Alex, or I can't say Alex, right? It just sounds weird in my mind. Lele and Jesse are another couple that you're okay, it's gonna make you feel really inspired to either find your person or stay with the person you're with because you feel that same love, or ditch the motherfucker that doesn't make you feel good. So yeah, without further ado, introducing Lele and Jesse. And on that note, I'm going to ask you a question, Lele. Do you want to introduce how you and I met, and subsequently how you and Jesse met?
Yes, absolutely. Jesse was tapped my shoulder. He's say aloha. And I should have, but I'll say it now, aloha. So actually, Holly and I met on the beautiful island of Kauai, about 5 years ago, right? It's been 2015?
6, man.
Oh my gosh.
Or five and a half. No, 6. Yeah. Almost 6 years.
So it was actually, that was a romantic introduction too, because it was on this private beach that our friends were hiking to, and Sorry, I'm like really hot right now.
Oh, you're
I need
good.
to
Take
my
your shirt off. No worries.
Let's go.
So
Let's go. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like kind of nervous. I've never
Oh,
been on.
you're good. Also,
Anyways,
there's
okay.
a lot of romantic fire in this room right now. So
Things are heating up,
things
people.
are really heating up
It's in
over
the
Already
air.
here.
getting
We can feel
undressed,
it.
and it's been like 1 minute. But okay, so Holly and I met on this beach on the North Shore of Kauai, and it was very memorable because it was my first time like living on this island that was beautiful, and I was making new friends, and Holly was this beautiful blonde chica that was topless on the beach, and I'm like, who is this girl? Like, I want to be friends with her, but I was also kind of like intimidated, like, how does she feel so comfortable within herself to just be topless? And then I was like, but I want to be topless too. So that's basically been our friendship, like, since the day I met her. Was she's this really inspiring, beautiful woman
Thanks.
that lights up the room and like wants you to be like your best version, most comfortable
and
version.
likes to get naked.
And-
Let's be
yeah,
real.
but
We
that's,
we
like,
all love
out
her
of-
for the right reasons, but you can't forget that one.
And that's like out of like her confidence that she like oozes out into the
Aw,
world.
Thank
So
you. Was that at Pila?
it was at Pila.
I think I remember that. Yeah. And I, just to insert this, I remember being like, oh my God, this chick is so beautiful. Like the second I met you, I was like, wow, 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 wow. Okay. Okay. I can do this. Like,
Aw.
I was very taken aback, but it was instant friendship. Like, instant, like, oh yeah, we're kindred spirits.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So keep going. Yeah. Tell us the story.
The story. Okay, so then Kauai is basically the base of this whole magical relationship between how Jesse and I have met. So it's hard to like put together into words. Okay, so in 2015 we were having a reunion in San Francisco.
A reunion of friends from
friends.
Kauai.
Right, exactly. And Jesse showed up with a friend that had worked on the farm that I had worked on in Kauai, but had gone to fish in Alaska. And that's where he and Jesse had met. And we all met back in this reunion in San Francisco. And after that weekend, we basically never even saw each other after that until 2019, a couple years later, which I'll hand the mic to Jesse.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Jesse, and
Wow, your voice. I love your voice.
Smooth.
I like talking into this mic.
sailing.
It's so it makes me sound a
It
little
can-
bit more
It
sensual.
can be it can be intoxicating. You get the mic in front of you and you get the headphones on and you're like, whoa,
All of a
this
sudden
is kind
I'm
of
Barry
fun.
White.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Ooh,
Are you like too close to it?
maybe.
No, you're fine. Our audio's perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Well, going back to San Francisco when we first met, I'd been commercial fishing in Alaska, and I had a buddy named Van who they both knew Holly and Lele before I had ever met them, and we went on a road trip to go to San Francisco to go to this, bluegrass festival, in which all these like Kauai people were meeting up. Yeah. So we
And
show
had you been to Kauai before that?
no.
Okay.
No.
So it was like all
So
us Kauai
yeah, this is
folks.
just
Yeah.
through a mutual
I was, like,
friend who
crashing.
happened to be a
This is-
Kauai friend.
This is
that
through
you went on a
Galen.
road
This is
trip
me
with.
pretty much
crashing.
Like this, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a Kauai get together.
Yeah, no,
So
that's rad.
Jesse
Super rad.
and these other dudes were friends from Alaska with
Right.
my ex Galen. Just to complicate it for you guys more.
Right, yeah. So
Yeah.
Galen was a fishing buddy of mine from Alaska, but he also lived on Kauai, and his family owned a farm of which most of these people had worked on. So we like dirt bagged it all the way up from LA to San Francisco camping, and they were staying in this like super cool house on like Haight-Ashbury, and they were renting it and stuff, and like we just like pitched tents in what we thought was the backyard, and the next day we woke up and we realized that we were in the neighbor's backyard. And like we woke up
that.
like we woke up in
Me
these
either,
hammocks
until
outside, and there was like people like in this kitchen like making coffee and like waking up to
That's
like go to
fantastic.
work, and we were like, oh, we have to take our hammocks down like real quick, like quietly.
They didn't
And
even
then, like,
see you out there?
No,
Oh
so like
my
we like
God.
took our hammocks down, like snuck into that like house that you guys had rented or whatever. And I didn't know
That's
anyone,
epic.
like you guys had
Yeah.
all worked on
Yeah.
on the farm together. And so I was just like this rando that was there. And
very much like give space until you can feel what's happening. You're like, you gauge from like, you're like a observer. You're like, okay, what's happening? Where can I insert myself?
Yeah.
And then you like insert yourself.
You
Yeah, I
gotta
don't-
blend in.
I'm not a loud person or anything like that, but I met Lele and I met Holly. I met everyone there, but like I don't think that she and I really had this like whatever it is that people say like love at first sight or whatever.
Honestly,
it's
I
just-
don't even really remember. Either.
Yeah, like we're
no
in
offense.
we're all in photos together. Like I'm in a photo with
Yeah.
Holly and with Lele, and it's fun to look back on now because it's like, oh, like this is an initial meeting point, but it really was like insignificant at the time.
Yeah, in the
That's
photo
interesting.
where,
That's a really interesting point because
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard many other couples talk about. I mean, I guess it's maybe somewhat common, but I think you guys probably have a pretty special relationship now, or at least that's the vibe that I get. But to meet somebody before, it's just interesting to see how people change and grow and become different people, and then they're compatible later. Like, I think
Yeah.
timing is very important, and that's cool. You guys got to meet beforehand and then run into each other again and be like, wow, this is a thing now.
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel like if we would have been meant to be at that time, like
Right.
it wouldn't have been the same because
Right.
we in those last 5 years where we didn't like we were disconnected and then re-met again. I went through like a significant amount of like self-growth and like had to experience certain things to be like who I am now. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
I think the same goes for you, Jesse, where
Yeah, I learned a new language in like the 5 years between whenever I met you and
that was one
Re-met
of my
again,
prerequisites was
you
like,
know?
I want someone that can speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So you see, it worked out.
When you put that shit
Yeah.
out in the universe, it comes back to you. You just got to
Yeah.
put it out there.
Okay, sorry to not to veer off, like because we want to keep hearing the story and how you reconnected. But do you know that song? Who does it? Is it Dylan Francis, White Boy? Do you know that song?
Yeah, it's Dylan Francis.
White boy,
do
you're my
not know.
hot boy,
Yeah,
and
it's a good one.
she sings about like
It's like a
She-
Spanish
she
chick
sings in
singing about
Spanglish.
how she found her
Oh.
white boy.
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need to listen to
It
that.
works for
It's great.
both of
I
us.
actually meant to send it to you the other day about Jesse because I was like, oh my God, so cute.
yeah, it's funny because my mom is from Florida and Lele is from Florida too. And for like the longest time, I don't know why this was something that I had in my mind, but I always told her I was going to end up with a Floridian, which is kind of weird. It's like a really random thing. It's like who
That's
has
hilarious.
that? But
Again, if you put that shit out there, it comes back to you. So
Yeah.
just start telling the universe what you want,
Right.
people,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
get that shit.
It's the
Be
boomerang.
specific, too.
Yeah. Oh my
Exactly.
God.
We've talked about that on the podcast.
Mhm. The more specific, the better, because it doesn't mean your standards are too high. It's that you're not setting your standards too low. You're being like, no, I
Exactly.
can have it all. I
Yeah.
can literally have everything I want out of a partner. And I think as long as you're not shallow
That's what I
about
was
those
gonna say. I was like,
expectations.
within reason,
Yes.
because
You don't want to be like, they have to make 2.5 million a year, drive a G6, and also have only slept with 3 women. Like,
Right,
you
yeah.
know, you gotta be reasonable. It should be more about their characteristics.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Keep going, please. Sigue.
so maybe like maybe we'll highlight kind of like what we did in the 5 year in between real quick. And you can go first in between like that San Francisco meeting and then like our second meeting,
Oh, okay.
what you did in that time.
Okay. So after that reunion, I went back to Florida, and I was born and raised in Florida. So I really was kind of looking, at this point, I was 22, and I was looking for a new place to experience and kind of live. And I fell in love with Kauai. I mean, you can attest to that. Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a very beautiful, sacred, like, you just feel at home there.
Mhm.
So I packed my bags up and I was like, all right, I'm moving back to Kauai. Like, so I lived there for those years in between. So since 2016.
That's wild. You've
to
been
now.
there that long already.
I know, it trips me out. I was like, oh, I'm just going to be here 1 year. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, another year and another year. And it's been 6 years. And it's definitely taught me a lot. I've grown into who I am now, which I'm really grateful. I feel like I've like followed my intuition, and that's what's like
Mhm.
led me to have all these like experiences. And so I've been there this whole time. And how about you? What did you do?
Well, I was gonna ask what you did in Kauai
Oh,
for
okay.
Yeah, like,
those
what's
5
your
years,
deal?
You know,
What
where
do
you
I
just
do?
Yeah.
Who even are you?
You just like sit around on Kauai or what? That's fine. That's chill.
Yeah, you're right. Because I didn't just. I'm not like a pro surfer where I get paid to just live on a beach and like catch waves.
Yeah, that's
So-
pretty rare.
Yeah. So I honestly did not have any expectations when I moved. I'm like, I just had a couple grand in my bank account and I was like, all right, I could at least have a place to live, which was a tent. I lived out of a tent for like 9 months on this land, which
I feel like that's
At
a
that
lot of
point-
people's story when they first get to Kauai.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
make
Oh,
it
they
there.
rough it. They're like,
yeah,
whatever
they make it
way
work,
I can. Yeah.
and then they figure it out, afterwards. Because that
Yeah.
place really is, I feel like, a huge hub for like growth and personal development, and kind of like your higher self coming to fruition. Like I definitely see that there, and I think a lot of people have a similar story with going to Kauai and experiencing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like a whole saying too about the island either accepts you or spits you out.
Mhm.
You know, and so like
Yes.
there's this whole thing where like you might move out there with like really good intentions, and like maybe the island realizes that, and like all of a sudden like 3 or 4 years pass, or like in her situation, I like to think, like she has like really pure intentions, and only means well for anyone she comes in contact with and stuff. And so like I feel like she's been really well accepted, but I've in my short period of time being there, I've seen people come and go like really fast.
Oh yeah.
They had like abrasive energy or something that
Right.
it just like, well, it just did not work out, and like they're back on the mainland now or something like
No,
that.
it's like a whole way of
Absolutely.
life out there
Yeah.
that's very different from a
Yeah.
lot of places, most other places I've been.
Yeah. You definitely have to be okay with sitting with your shit. Kind of like,
Yeah, exactly.
you got to marinate in it. You got to
Exactly.
learn from it. And then if you're not able to do that, that's when you kind of like panic and you have, people are like, okay, this isn't for me. I got to,
right. Freak
go
out
s-
and you flee.
yeah.
Got to get out.
Yeah. Or you're just have too much, too much pressure to like be a certain way where the
Mhm.
island is like, nope, you can't.
Or you're like a cult, like a literal cult
Oh my
that shows
God.
up on the island, and like the
Yeah.
mayor says, "Oh no, you have to go." And so then they go to like Maui, and then like the
Dude.
mayor of Kauai tells the mayor of Maui, "Hey, these members of this cult are coming to your island to set up shop." And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna let that happen." And then they kick them out, and they're back in southern Colorado now.
So this feels very
That's
like
crazy.
specific, which we don't have to get into it, but I'm guessing
know,
you
that's like-
actually know about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to someone on the island the other day about how there's so many fucking cults in the Hawaiian Islands. Like a lot of the woofer farms, you have to be super careful because they'll have you sign a contract that you don't know what you're signing is like, you can't leave, we're keeping you here. And then it gets real fucking culty
I feel
and weird.
like the island is really good about protecting its own, though. Like people who are really
Well,
down to earth, like it definitely is able to kind of cultivate that lifestyle.
But if you're on a farm of fucking hundred,
No,
like
there
a
are
bunch of
different
acres,
exceptions
and
to
that's
that,
not.
for
You've
sure.
only been to Kauai. You haven't been to how huge the other islands are.
Mhm.
Like you could be very isolated. Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going. You slept in a tent for 9 months.
Yeah, and then I started my first job was nannying for a lady, a single mom, and she was a photographer. She was a wedding photographer, and she kind of needed help with her kids, her business. I have a marketing degree, and kind of just started, working on her website, blogging for her, and eventually I've always loved photography. I grew up, being like the family photographer on like travel trips and things like that. So it always was something that I enjoyed. And then I ultimately started my own photography business, and I've been pretty, I think, successful with that on the island.
You have.
Well, yeah, too. So that's what I've been doing. I photograph couples and families, and as of lately, I've been starting to create these like adventure elopement experiences for people that would like to kind of move away from the traditional wedding and all the stress that comes from that, to just creating this experience for them and their partner, and whether it be like climbing the top of a mountain, and saying their vows, or having like a romantic just sunset beach elopement, or something that really resonates,
creating an intimate
them.
ceremony
Right.
for just them.
Right, where
Yeah.
it's just about them and not about all these other people.
That's beautiful. I love that because I kind of personally feel tossed up. Like, and when I get married, do I want it to be something?
bitch.
I
what?
said and when. I said and when. If I
I'm
die
like, wait,
tomorrow,
wait.
we're
I
not
just-
getting married. So, I mean,
Okay, I just had a moment there. I'm like, yes, daydreaming, and then it like hit me that you said if. I'm like, wait, sorry. Go ahead. Okay.
I'm trapped. Please help me. Come get me
Yeah.
out.
He's like, this is
I'm
my
not here
cult.
by my own will.
She did make me sign a contract.
Yeah, no, I contemplate what I want it to be like, a big gathering of like an actual wedding, and you got to pick out flowers and table settings and foods and cakes. Like, I imagine all that would be kind of fun, but I also think my relationship is about me and nobody else. And so, like, my brother actually recently went and got married on his own, didn't tell anybody, like, didn't leave it up to anybody, didn't invite anybody. He's like,
Like,
you
we
know,
didn't even know for like a week.
yeah,
after
my
they
own
got
brother,
back.
which, yeah.
Where did he get married? Or eloped?
They went to Vegas and got
cool.
married, which
And-
they're not like
Wait,
partiers
was it like
or
in the
anything.
chapel? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they went
Elvis?
to like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
it was one,
That's
something
amazing.
like that. But apparently in Vegas, there's like a whole street that is nothing but like marriage chapels. But yeah, so they ran off, and I totally was like, I respected it so much because I'm like, what a great decision. Like, that's a great way to honor your relationship, step up to the plate when it's just
Yeah.
you and your partner. Like, nobody else, their opinions don't mean anything, whether good or bad. Like, it's not about anybody else. But also, I would want to share that with a lot of other people. So I'm like,
right.
I see both sides, but
Yeah.
in Hawaii, having a setup like that would be super amazing because just you and your partner in the most epic, beautiful scenery would be like top notch for getting married.
And that's so true. I never thought about like it is the step up to the plate moment where you're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if no one is around, but it's really about me and this other person. And it doesn't matter if my family is here or my friends or whatever. It's like me and this person. And
Absolutely.
it feels right. And you can also premeditate it too. But that was like it's like a scary thing for me, kind of like being around elopements for the first time, like with Lele shooting elopements all the time and stuff. When I think about my mom or my dad and how like they would be like so hurt
Yeah.
if like there wasn't this whole traditional like ceremony and then like all the people are there and all this stuff, and like that's like really it's weird because it's become like a cultural thing, I guess, to us like in the United States of like having weddings like and having like it all planned out and stuff.
Yeah. And I definitely think that it's important to still include your family and friends. Like,
yeah.
I talk about this when people are like, okay, I would like to elope, but like, what does that mean? Like, can some people come? Can, like, and
Yeah.
especially now with COVID, a lot of people are going from like hundreds of like people on their guest list to like maybe like 25 or
Yep.
20, whatever. So there's definitely still ways. And we talk about this too, because I'm like, I'll elope, like, let's go to Japan or somewhere like,
That's rad.
incredible. But then we
Yeah.
also do want to celebrate that like
Yeah.
grand moment with our family and friends. So yeah, it's a toss up, but you can like elope and then have like a huge ceremony
Yeah,
or a huge
absolutely.
reception.
Just throw a party. We're fucking
Exactly,
married now,
yeah.
so let's
Yeah.
party. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be all this big charade that just
Exactly.
causes all this
Right.
stress
Let's
and
Just
just
like
turmoil.
let's just have like auntie
Exactly.
and uncle bring like tamales and rice and beans.
Yep.
Get some coolers
Yep.
of Tecate and
Yep.
call it a day. Like actually, tequila has to be involved too. Let's.
Yeah, the
be
coolest
real.
parts about weddings and about like, or even having an elopement and then a reception after is like all your single friends get to meet like your friends on each side,
Right.
or whatever. And it's like,
And then
Hey,
they
yo,
fuck, and then they
what's up?
fuck
That's the
it
thing, I
up,
feel
and
like
then
this is my boy Dylan Ellis. He's single. He works at the farmer's market in Ann Arbor every Saturday. You get to meet him now in the flesh.
Hey, if you're listening to this and you're into that, he has a turkey in a photo on Tinder. So if you come across that, that's him. Go
Shouts
for
out
it.
Dylan Ellis.
It's
Yeah,
not a rooster.
shout out to you,
it's a
Dylan.
turkey.
It's a turkey.
No, I feel like weddings are very much so for your family and friends. Like a big part of it is for other people, and that's why like I
yeah.
really respect going off and just eloping because I'm like the wedding is for everybody else. Like it's a party for them. They get to meet, they get to hang out, have a good time, and of course celebrate your love. But it's like
And,
you
yeah.
kind of do it for them because like
And the cost is so outrageous typically
That's-
too.
that's a
It's
big
like none of
thing.
us like
Insane.
for the most part, like all of us in our like mid 20s to like mid 30s, none of us are like super rich at this point in our
I'm
lives.
not, yeah,
like
I'm
we're
not prepared
starting.
to drop like 30 grand on a wedding.
Right.
Fuck
Yeah, it's like
no.
well, we all want like
Fuck
more
no.
like
A mortgage. or
concrete
something.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
exactly.
exactly. Like we would all
Yeah.
rather like put a down payment on a house or like have, like equipment for our businesses or whatever. And it's
Yeah.
like when you got to drop all that on a wedding that lasts like a day and a half or
Get
whatever.
this. There's actually a show
That
I
just popped
saw
into my head.
Marriage or
called
mortgage.
Marriage.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
watched
Yep.
like
Yeah.
10 minutes or less of one episode, and I said out loud, like, doesn't just every couple on this show, like, if you have to ask, choose the fucking mortgage. Like,
Right.
why are you, what,
Not
you
even a
know,
question.
it's not even a question. These people are like, well, should we secure our future or drop 40K on our wedding, and then be like renting this overpriced rent?
Or living with
And-
mom and dad.
Or living because I think some of the little
What is
clips
this,
they showed
Europe?
are kind of
Yeah.
extreme, where they're like, well, if we do the marriage, we can't like move out of our shithole apartment that's covered in piss, or where it's like, okay, but it seems that there's only one decision here, like.
Yeah.
And I
feel the
know
same way.
what there's probably people listening. They're like, well, this is very special to me. This is like the best thing of
They
my
both have their
life.
merits, for
Yeah.
sure.
For sure. I guess when I'm watching it personally, I'm like, why is this a show? Like, this shouldn't,
So
yeah.
the thing
There's
that
no
gets me
question
is
here.
like, if they're not married or something, they can't start to create any more of a future, and like they have to put the marriage before the house. And I think very much so, if you're in a super solid relationship and very confident and positive that that partner is going to be your forever partner, I would justify a stable foundation, before the wedding, because you can get married whenever you want. But like, I would rather invest in our future together now than try and wait until we're married, because then you're allowed to or something. Like, that's a rule.
Yeah, I mean, I had a
So-
friend who got married well, actually, it was right before I met Alex, like the week before, for the second time. I had gone down to Austin to go to his wedding, and he and his fiance at the time had a baby together. And then, I mean, like, it was like, I don't know if it was planned or not, but like, they love each other and like they were meant to be, and they had a kid and whatever, and they're raising the kid, little Milo. He's like so cute. And then they had the wedding, and like, I thought it was so special because Milo was like a year and a half old. He was able to walk and stuff, and he was like a part of the wedding. And I was like, well, that's kind of non-traditional, but that's like so cute, even having this whole like non-traditional thing. Like, what stops someone from having like, a couple kids and then being like, oh, well, like, it's
We actually
time.
have
We're
a
in
few friends that have done that.
We're in a financial situation where we can get married and let's have a ceremony. Our kids are here, It's like, what is this? Like,
That
the whole,
is special. I like that.
I think it's more like modern day love. Like it's
Absolutely. That's what I was going to
modern
say.
day. It's just the times that we're in, I guess you could say. Like
So
although it's like
a
little
lot
cheesy.
of our family members and grandparents surely were way more traditional, and you were, a horrible person and sinned terribly if you had a child out of wedlock. So like, we're definitely coming out of that cultural norm to be married before you had kids or buy a house before you've had kids. And I think we're kind of lucky to be out that, because I think that was super limiting to like people's, futures and relationships. Like, now we can build whatever the fuck we want.
Well, and then people
regardless.
were like just getting married in order to fuck because they were horny, but they like had nowhere to do that without getting like, either sent to hell, oh my God, or like their parents, people would know, and then it's like, oh, if I get pregnant, yeah, like we're screwed. And so people would then, I think, so much in the past get married just so they could finally have sex, like at least openly, or like, they didn't have to be so careful kind of thing. And it's like, man, that's just no way to live, or like no way to, that isn't the best way to make a decision, Yeah. Okay. So let's keep moving on. This is great, actually. I think that like it'll be super rounded out where at the end of the episode, it'll be like, we come to when you guys reconnected. It's going to be like totally full circle. So, yeah, we went to Lele on the island, being her beautiful goddess self, taking photos of all these couples and families and like really cultivating her skills. And then do we have more to share there? Are we now panning to Jesse?
I think we're gonna pan over to Jesse.
So, after I had met her for the first time, 2015, San Francisco. Let's see. Oh man, I had graduated from college that year in May. I studied in West Texas at a private Christian school called Abilene Christian University, where my go Wildcats, where my mom went, my dad, they both met there. My sister went there, my brother went there. There's a dormitory named after my great aunt. My grandfather went there. So, uh, well, I don't know what her first name is. I don't think I ever knew her, but it's Nelson. That's my mom's maiden name, and it was called Nelson Dormitory. It's an all-girls dormitory. So Abilene Christian's like a kind of like a conservative Church of Christ school, and I was always the black sheep since I went in.
I'm
And
like, have you been offended by all the things I've been saying?
no, but
Sorry.
like I lived it. I lived all that stuff like in the culture of like churches and growing up like super religious, and I kind of shed my Christianity the summer before I went there. So it was funny because like the whole time I was there, I just felt on the fringes, which I liked. Like all the friends that I made and like the people that would accept me as like a drinker, smoker, whatever.
Right.
Like they were
The
also cool
bad
with it.
boy.
Yeah, so it was cool. Like, and then like the Christian kids, like that grew up in the church and stuff, like as they started to like enjoy drinking or
Right.
partying or whatever,
Start to rebel a
they
little
started
bit.
to like me,
Right.
because I
then
didn't,
you're the cool guy.
like I
'cause
wasn't
you've
like
been doing it all this time.
I didn't
Hell
have
yeah.
any like preoccupations about the whole thing, and so they're like, oh, this guy's cool because like he doesn't really care, he's not judging me. It's like,
Right.
no, like what is that for? So I graduated with an advertising and marketing degree from there. But after my sophomore year, I started going to Alaska to commercial fish for salmon in the Prince William Sound because my brother had done it before me. I have an older brother, and yeah, I went up there alone in 2013, and he like wrote me this whole like manuscript about what to look for and going up there to find a job. So I bought a one-way ticket and moved to Cordova, Alaska.
That's a pretty ballsy move on your part.
Dope.
People that just go out there and like hold down a job, like a seasonal job, but that's super extreme like that, I really respect because like the experience is so fulfilling. I have to imagine. I've never done anything like that personally. So when I hear about people doing that, I'm like, that's super dope and inspirational because you just really are following your life path and seeing, kind of where things lead you. So something like that's super rad.
Yeah, so I like did something similar that Lele did, and I lived out of a tent.
In Alaska though?
Yeah, it was cold.
I was gonna say
It
I
was
just like
rainy.
I could see living out of a tent in Kauai, but
I thought you guys like slept on the boat in
Well,
the
I
little
didn't have
cabins.
a job when I moved up, so I like originally moved
Oh.
up with like, like I showed up like I looked like a backpacker or hiker or something. I
so
had-
you didn't secure the job before you moved there.
No.
You just moved there
No,
and knew what
yeah.
you were looking
Yeah,
for.
I knew what I was looking
That's
for. So what
rad.
I did, like, I pitched a tent and then I'd walk into town, like where the harbor was, and do it like a mile walk in the morning, and then walk the docks is what they say. Like you walk the docks and you talk to all the fishing captains,
Right.
and you say, "Hey, are you looking for a deckhand?" And I got the runaround for like 3.5 weeks. The same shit. That's like, oh nope, nope. And there's a phrase like, "I'm green." You say, "I'm green." It's shortened for greenhorn. If you're a greenhorn, it means you've never fished before and
Right.
you're new to the industry. And
Right.
they want to know that. You can't keep it from them because once you step on the boat, it's like,
Right.
I don't know shit.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. They have to fully train you
So
from
it's
the
like,
ground
hey,
up.
I'm green. I'm looking for work. Blah blah blah. And you have nothing to prove until they say like, oh yeah, you can hop on the boat and we'll take time and show you how it works. And so a guy took a bite and took me on to go black cod fishing, and I did this type of fishing that's called pot fishing.
I fish for pot every day in my jar of what should be pot, but often other things get mixed
fished
in.
for
I
pot
know
when I was
what
in
you're
college,
thinking,
'cause I
what you're
was in
doing.
West Texas, and it's like you definitely have to like put your line
So
out and see
hunt-
what you can
Hunt
get.
for it.
Yeah.
Hunt it
You're
down.
straight
$30
edge
for a gram. What the
campus.
fuck, dude? How is this? Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so I pot fished for black cod for a bit, and then I got a salmon fishing job, and I did that. And it was really lucrative. Like I went back to college as a junior, and I'd worked for 2.5 months, and I made 34 grand. And I went to school, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know what to do with all this money. And
Blew it
I
all
had
on
just
flat
turned
screen
21.
TVs.
So what do you think I
Yeah,
did? Like I was going out to
for
the
sure.
bar with
Oh,
all my
yeah.
friends and felt really comfortable, and it was nice, and it showed me that like you can work unconventional jobs and still make a living off of it. It doesn't have to be like this, oh, what am I in college for again? For the degree that I can go work at the job where I get paid the same amount that I just made in.
Yeah, that's good perspective. Like in 2.5 months, making that much money, but
Holy
then going to
shit, yeah.
college and paying that much to get a degree where
Right,
you're like,
yeah.
I
You're
can
like,
shit
why am
on
I here?
those
Yeah.
earnings in 2 months.
I feel like we both have similar like life experiences, which play out as to like why we get along so well now and why we're like meant to be. But yeah, I felt the same way. Like after I graduated college, I got into I had an internship, and then I got a job that to anyone else would have been like the dream job after college, but it just didn't really feel like my soul's purpose. And then I
Yeah.
realized once I started traveling, I'm like, wow, you can really do anything that you want in this world to just
Yeah.
live. Like you don't have to fill in all these boxes that like you're supposed to be doing said and said thing, but just really
Yeah, and to
Right.
fast
Doing what makes you
forward
feel
to like even capitalize on that thought, to fast forward and put it in perspective of where I am now. I work on an organic turmeric and ginger farm on Kauai, and basically what I get paid, I guess like yearly would be the same amount that I got paid fishing in Alaska for those 2 to 3 months. Like my annual salary would equal what I made back then in those like couple months or whatever. And I obviously I have side gigs and stuff that I do, like my passions. I can make money off of those things, but like I'm not any less happy because I'm not making quick money, or like more happy because I'm making whatever. It's like really, it's all perspective of where you are in life, and it's not really about, I guess, like being like really financially prosperous or whatever. It's kind of like whatever you do with your job, if you're happy doing it and you go to sleep happy every day, the paycheck doesn't really matter, if you're comfortable like from
That's
your day to
number one
day.
in life for anybody out there listening. That is number one. Your happiness comes before all else. I completely agree.
Yeah. So fished in Alaska, went to college, graduated, met Lele in that summer, met Holly at the festival, and then
I actually remember now that I think I got topless at that festival too. What's that one? I think Flogging Molly was there or some shit at the end, and I was like, yeah! And I think like I literally had a concert moment where I was on someone's shoulders and like took
Topless.
my top off. And I was like, it's getting dark. Who gives a fuck?
Take your top off.
And then now I look back on it and I'm like, oh my God, you were that girl.
But
But at the
those are,
same
like, the
time, I'm
moments-
like, I was fucking 23 having a great
Exactly.
time.
that festival is
Exactly.
so
Like-
fun, honestly.
Those are the moments in
Yeah.
life where
Hardly
you're like,
Strictly is like in Golden Gate Park, and it's free admission. No one has to pay anything, and you can also bring in anything you want
We
in
brought
your
in
coolers and
of
stuff.
booze. It was
And I
fucking
think
great.
that I think it's so hot. I don't think it happened last year. Maybe it was virtual, but it's still a thing. And I would highly recommend anyone to go to this festival, whether you're into bluegrass or not. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's literally so fun.
Which I will say I am not particularly into bluegrass.
we were just talking about this.
Yeah. But there were a lot of other artists there. Like I can't remember who, but whatever. There were a lot of other people there that were super good. I mean, fucking Flogging Molly was there and played like a pretty punk ass show. Like
Robert
punk ass in a
O'Keen,
good way.
country.
Neko case.
Neko Case.
It was like this.
I
reggae
think
guy.
there
Sharon
was-
Jones and the Dap Kings.
I feel
rest in
so
peace.
left out right now.
I think
All right, we'll stop
sorry.
nerding out.
What's his name? I guess he's I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now because I really like him. Whatever. Oh well,
He
it'll
was
come
there.
back when it's this guy was there. Okay.
So
Yeah.
Mexico.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
another big part of my life, I guess, was after that trip in the spring of 2016, I traveled to Mexico with those two same buddies that we did the trip up from LA to San Francisco with. And that was my first time in Mexico, like properly. I'd been like across the border because I grew up in Texas a few times, but yeah, we started in Mexico City and then went south into Oaxaca, the state of Oaxaca, and then went our final destination was on Lago de Atitlan, Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, and we had heard through another fishing friend about a Spanish school down there. So kind of like our common goal was to go to Spanish school on this lake for like, a couple weeks or whatever. So that was my first experience, and like I just fell in love with Mexico and Oaxaca specifically. But it became like a reoccurring place where I would go back to like after a fishing season. I'd go down there and I build websites and stuff, and I got a gig building a website for this like boutique hotel on a beach in Oaxaca after like a really really bum fishing season, which you have this 34 grand fishing season, and then you have this 2 grand fishing season where you work your
dear.
ass off
That's harsh.
for 3 months, and then your check at the end is like, oh, you actually owe me
Right.
$600 for the groceries, and thank you. So it's like if I could encourage anyone to go be a commercial fisherman, I wouldn't.
Sorry, I
That's
just thought
good
that
to
was,
know
like,
for
going in
people
a
listening
different
because
direction.
I
I thought you were gonna
I
be
love
like,
that. I
but
love
still, go do it for the experience. I
well,
love that you're like, don't.
No,
There's
no.
Fuck
pros
with
and
it.
cons to
Don't
anything. But
don't go
Well,
be a
there's-
commercial fisherman if like you're going to do it for the paycheck, because it's really like I loved the lifestyle. I think it's like it was so therapeutic to be out there on a boat, and like boat life is one thing because you learn to be around like 4 other guys in small quarters and put up with their shit, and
yeah.
you get along as well as you can and stuff, but sometimes there's like bad apples and it happens.
Well, and
but
no judgment here, Jesse, but also, not to mention the ethical implications on the
Yeah.
planet that are currently occurring
yeah,
from
totally.
commercial fishing that I think a lot of
Yeah.
the public has just become aware of.
I have not watched Seaspiracy.
I haven't yet either, but Holly
But
did.
I will say
Yeah.
that the fishery I was a part of is considered kind of like the model child for sustainability.
That's
There's
awesome.
hatcheries.
There are still sustainable fishing
Yeah, and
practices.
they
for
monitor
sure.
the returns, and they don't let us fish if they don't have the return that they need to then spawn for the next season. So it is
Hell
highly
yeah.
regulated, and that's actually written into Alaska's constitution when they became
I
a
think
state.
Alaska is way more ethical than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Almost like it's
Yeah, fuck
it's
Russia.
known for that.
No, I'm just kidding. Shouts out Russia. Shouts out all my friends that I have in Moscow. And
Love
no,
you,
I'm kidding. I don't have any
Putin.
friends in
Just
Moscow.
Well,
I actually do have one
look.
friend that I met when she and I went on a trip down to Patagonia,
Oh,
and
you're
he was like a
right.
fucking cool ass cat. I followed his like Instagram, and he was like posted all his photos
His
from the
hikes were
trip,
insane, yeah.
and he was like solo hiking like all these fucking crazy places.
I want
Only
to put,
love for Russia.
I want to
sorry.
make it clear that I don't love Putin. I just said that,
We
so he
love the
doesn't
country of
fucking
Russia.
We love
send
you,
me poison.
Russia.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah. Okay. Russia, we love you. Yes.
Yeah, so I ended up after one fishing season in 2017 or 18, I was getting a wisdom tooth. It was coming in my head, and I could put my little tongue up in my gums and feel it. And I was like, oh shit, I don't have health insurance. What do I do?
Was this on the fishing trip? Like you
Yeah.
were on the boat
Oh,
for
yeah.
that summer?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Should have
rough.
just had a fish suck it out.
yeah.
They do that,
You're a
right?
girl.
Yeah. yeah.
Even better.
But
What's
yeah,
better than a fish?
I
A
didn't
girl.
I never had health insurance actually until I moved to Hawaii and got on like Aloha Care. Shouts out Aloha Care.
Shouts out aloha.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hawaii has like
It's
really,
really
great,
good.
like, health insurance.
Yeah.
Actually.
It's like
the
access
I went to the
for
doctor for
us,
the first
but
time in, like-
access is the worst.
Yeah, I went to the doctor for the first time in 11 years, like a couple months ago. It felt really good.
Wow.
That's
Congrats.
Shouts out Dr. Brownstein.
You're doing lots of shout outs.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
got to. It's a podcast.
Yes.
Plug them all. Plug them all.
You know what? Plug away, hone.
We're gonna
make sure everybody gets
Do
the
it.
down low. All the way across.
So I went
the
to
board.
Mexico to get this tooth pulled, and I'd gone to Mexico City, and like I have a really good buddy who I met the first time I went there. Shouts out Omar. Love you, brother. I'm gonna send you the link to listen to this podcast so you can hear your name in it.
Also, if you guys aren't playing the drinking game yet, where you take a drink every time we or Jesse shouts somebody out,
Oh.
you need to rewind
Yeah,
and start
rewind.
playing.
Here we
Maybe
go.
we'll put a disclosure at the
Bottoms
beginning
up.
You
of
probably
the
should have
episode,
had
just so
Shouts
you know.
out to
3
the
shots.
drinkers.
Just so you know, as you go through this episode, you need to take a shot
Of
every time he
mezcal.
shouts out.
Well, you should be drinking mezcal.
Yeah.
So 2019.
Yeah, I got my tooth pulled down there. From a connection I made in Alaska, actually, in Fairbanks. Someone gave me her dental recommendation because
What's her
she
name?
was
Shout her
Mexican.
out.
She has a Tacos Al Pastor truck in Fairbanks, Alaska. I could not tell you the name, but it's probably the only Tacos Al Pastor truck in Fairbanks.
Fuck yeah.
She gave me her dental recommendation, and I went, got my tooth pulled, and then I was like, oh, what am I doing now? I don't know. I did not know what I was doing, so I stayed there. And I lived in Mexico City for about a year and a half after that because I fell in love with the city. And it was, I could not really, I talk to her all the time about Mexico and how much I'm in love with it. But I learned Spanish. I enrolled in classes at the university, and I taught English. And yeah, I'd go in between Mexico and Oaxaca, kind of like spending my time. And yeah, I had a series of relationships and
Yeah.
explored and like learned.
What are their names? Let's give them a shout out.
No,
Also, how were they in bed? Compared to Lele specifically. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm taking it too far.
They
Okay,
were
go.
they were learning experiences, and that's what brought me, I guess, like full circle to like renting this place back in Oaxaca with Van after a fishing season, my buddy, and her friend too. And this was November 2019 when we had the house rented down there in San Agustinillo, Oaxaca, Mexico. Shout out San Agustinillo.
I knew a shout out was coming. He's plugging super hard.
Yeah, so our friend Van sent out a group text and was like, this is the same group of friends that had the reunion in San Francisco.
Mhm.
You, Holly, being part of that group.
I
of friends.
was invited. I would
Yeah.
like to put it out there. I feel very honored that
So,
I was invited.
Hey, we're renting out a house in Oaxaca for a month. Like, whoever wants to come out can come out. And I'm just like living my life on Kauai. I had just come back from a trip in Europe, actually, which was amazing. It was my first time in Europe. I went to like France, Italy, Spain, Portugal. And I was just kind of
Croatia.
I did go to Croatia. And then Van sent this message out, and I'm like, this group of people are like, it's like a soul group. I don't know. I feel like you don't get connected to like, they're the type of people that, yes, you fly to the other side of like the country to like hang out with for a weekend or whatever. So I went to Oaxaca in November. It was like the week right before Thanksgiving, and got on the plane, met up with Jesse, Van, and Dylan.
Did you fly there by yourself?
I did fly there by myself.
So you just knew there was going to be a bunch of friends from
exactly
that friend group there.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd kept in touch with Van and Dylan for the most part the last 5 years, but I didn't really know Jesse that well.
And it ended up only being the four of you, right?
Yeah, it was only the four of us. It was like me and three dudes. I was like, oh, great.
Yeah, like we wanted to like pack the house out with like a bunch of friends. Like we rented a house that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beds at least, and like 4 of them were bunk beds. So there you go. It's like at least 9 people or 10 people. Ended up being like 4.
But it was great. So yeah, that's when Jesse and I reconnected, and I remember him just like hanging out in the hammock, and me, Dylan, and Van are like all chatting it up, like talking about what we've been doing the last couple months and whatever. And then he's just like swinging in the hammock, and I'm like, what? Like, is he gonna ever talk? Like, what's he doing? Like,
He's so mysterious. What's going on in his head?
Because
I wonder what he's thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what
That's
are you
what
doing?
did it, Jesse.
That was like part of my whole game.
I was gonna say he knew what he was
I'm
doing.
just gonna stay over here. Don't even.
I'm just gonna look the other way.
And then
I'm gonna read a book standing up.
Yeah.
On this pretty scenery over here in the sunset.
So like the second or third day, I can't remember, one of our friends went to go into town to like get food or money exchange like for pesos. And our friend Dylan, he had like fallen off the hammock and like hurt his ass really bad. So like he didn't want to hang out at all. So I was like, oh, like this is my time to like hang out with Jesse by ourselves.
I don't want to hang out. I hurt my ass.
Yeah, I felt bad.
I'm sorry, Dylan.
The hammock just like fell.
Literally
like,
butt hurt.
He had like hung his hammock. It just like fell in the middle of him. Like,
I think the hook came out of the wall.
Oh, that's fucked.
So yeah, Jesse and I got to hang out. We went to walk this beach, and it was like at that point we were just being friends, you know, like I was
Right.
just like, oh, who's this guy? Like wanted to talk to him. And then I remember him asking me all these like kind of like not super personal questions, but like you were like interested in me kind of
Like familial,
Right.
like who's your brother? Like, do you have brothers? You got sisters,
Are they
mom,
gonna kick
dad.
my ass?
You know,
You know,
like-
how big
yeah,
are these
right.
guys? What do I have to
Totally.
do they
That's
carry
really important.
firearms or does your family not believe in that? Like yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And then we had this little walk on the beach. We swam a little bit and then we are like walking back to the house and this
And then I shoved my tongue down her throat.
You wish
Yeah.
you did. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
This
I
little
heard a
like
different story. Yeah.
Mexican guy was like, "Oh, do you want to go like on this like romantic like?" He thought we were a couple because like we look like a couple, I guess, at that point. And he's like, "Do you want us to take you like on this like boat out to
las
this
delfinas?
to see dolphins?" And I was like, "Oh,
Ooh.
this guy like, does he know that we're gonna be together? Like, because I like the vibe, like."
Yeah. Did you do it?
He could see it.
No, we didn't. We just went back to the house and then he told our friend and our friend was like laughing. But yeah, then we just hung out that week, like exploring the San Agustinillo and
The part that bonded us was the acid trip.
Wait, Lele took acid?
Oh yeah.
that was my
Oh my god.
It was the acid
Had you never done it before?
I had never done
I'm
acid.
honestly
Really?
like kind
Yeah.
of jealous that I didn't
That's
get to be there for
interesting.
this.
I never had done acid and it was funny because I brought acid on the trip.
Uh-huh.
Like we each had brought acid. And so like when we
Wait.
woke
Shouts out acid.
we
Does someone we know mutually who no names give it to you on the island?
No, it was someone else.
I can't say who
can't
it
name
was.
Yeah, we
no,
can't
no,
shout out that
no
one.
names
No-
on
I
that
no
can't
one.
shout out that
Shout-outs.
person.
Shout-outs
But we'll
to
send him the link to
Shout-outs
the
to
video,
Lucy.
to the stream.
Shout out to Lucy.
Shouts out that person.
Yeah. So we ate some acid and I never knew I'd taken mushrooms before. That was like the only other
Mhm.
like psychedelic I'd taken. Wait. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So like the trip was super special. LSD is probably like my favorite substance of choice. And the trip started off just like really normal. We went to like catch a collectivo, which is like a shared ride down the street to the next beach town, and then we were gonna go watch the sunset, and we did. And the sunset was just like this crazy blood orange like sun that just like sinks down below the level of the ocean.
I'm going to insert something here because at one point it was so picturesque that I'm like, all that needs to happen is like a bird needs to fly across the fat sun that's like setting over the
Yeah.
ocean. And then what happens? A bird
Were
literally.
you on the acid at this
as
point?
that happened.
Okay, and
And
so
I
in
was
your
like-
mind, you're like, whoa.
I was like, did I
This is
orchestrate that? Like,
Yeah.
like
I'm telling you guys, keep putting that shit out there.
Yes.
It will come to you.
Yeah.
I love that though.
And then as soon as like the sun sets, like it was like starry, bright
Yeah,
sky.
like it's weird, like the sun sets and then there's like an afterglow or whatever, and then like you look up and you realize like, oh, there's stars up there. They really come out of nowhere. They just like literally like
Mhm.
just like they're there. It's like, whoa, how did you guys get there? That was crazy. Like we were just like looking. Her, Dylan, and I were like looking up at the stars together. So then the bioluminescence is popping off in the ocean, and our buddy Van, like, he's not with us looking at the stars, but all of a sudden he like
Pops out
he
of
comes
the
out of nowhere and
bioluminescence.
he's
No.
butt ass naked,
running through the
He's like,
water.
oh my god, you guys have to come out here and see this. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. He's like out there like
while we're just like
swimming.
melting into the sand, like
Yeah,
Also,
all
like,
the
yeah,
stars,
He,
like
comes
this
out of
guy
nowhere and it's like,
Van,
oh,
too,
like
is
his
like-
dick's in my face, and he's
Yeah.
telling me about the bioluminescence.
He is so funny too. Like he's like one of those people that's like comedic without even knowing it, where you're like dying and he's like, what? Okay, let's go. Like has no idea that
his
he's so
stoke
fucking
level's
hilarious.
like 100 all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, where you're like, okay, wow, but he's like, yeah.
He like
kinda
gets you excited, even
he's
though it's
like
like
Chris
not that
Farley
He's a hype
in a
man.
way.
Hype man, for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah, he's a bit
For
seriously
sure.
like Chris Farley, but like
yeah.
just where he's always like, yeah, like look right on, let's fucking go. Yeah. So anyway, keep
Yeah.
going.
Well, we had this awesome experience on LSD and went back to our spot, and then I I
We
think
probably all just went to sleep because we were
No,
so
we ended up watching this really funny, like, well, not funny, but it was actually like a really. I don't know how I'm a big Grateful Dead fan, and I ended up having like
Steven's
a-
laughing.
I ended up having like something pop up in my Instagram feed that was like something posted from one of the accounts, like a fan account or something of like an educational video about LSD that came out like in the early 70s. And it was cool because like it wasn't really like this whole thing about like you should do LSD or you shouldn't do LSD, but it was like a video that like brought together the two perspectives and told you like from the get-go is like LSD is like a drug that like you take but and it won't tell you, it won't give you the answers of life. It won't tell you what's like like it won't give you this whole like what's the most important thing that you should be focusing on, but it definitely like presents things in a new way that you've never seen before.
Right. Just
you know?
documents both sides of the
Yeah,
situation.
and that's what it is. Like that's what
I
LSD
fucking
is.
love acid. Like,
No, it's not
I don't
anything
really
that's gonna like
do it much anymore.
teach. It's
but
not gonna like
Right.
oh this is the secret to life. No, it's just like
It
it's
does
fun,
teach you a lot
know?
though about how you're connected with the universe and kind of who you are on a deeper level than this human level. Like it's honestly I won't go on a tangent about it. All I'll say is I truly feel that entheogens and hallucinogens like saved my life. Like that's
Yeah.
why I have them tattooed on all over me is because I was in a very deep dark depression and that shit really made me like become a happy person again.
Yeah.
So I was able to be like, "Oh, this is who I am, not who I thought I was on this little surface level of being a human being."
Good
It's like,
perspective
"Oh,
giver.
this is
Yeah.
who I am on a soul level, and this is where I need to keep going to like learn about myself."
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. And I would agree. I will also note that we are not advocating that anybody out there should do any sort of
I am.
substance
Very
that
true.
is illegal. But hey,
Yeah.
it didn't kill us. So, you know.
Yeah. That's yep.
You
Jesse,
can
you're
definitely
spacing out into the
tap
distance. You have
in
something to
through
say.
meditation,
Shouts out
through
LSD.
healthy eating, through exercise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we
You
don't
don't-
need to fucking get all like we're saying what we're saying and you can read into it in whatever way you want. I'm going to be the real one here and just say like you do you. Be an adult regular person and take your own responsibility. We're just telling you what we've done.
Right.
So after that,
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. We are going to end the episode here because we had such an incredible conversation that we are going to split this episode into two and see y'all next week with the continuation of Lele and Jesse and our incredible and somewhat drunkard conversation. So if you haven't had enough already, or even if you had, please come join us again next week. We are so excited to have these lovely people on here and that you're listening and hearing about more incredible love relationships. So go ahead and find us on Instagram at Indecent Disclosure Podcast, YouTube Indecent Disclosure Podcast. Give us a 5-star review and write us a review. Share with your friends. Subscribe on Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts or any other listening platform. We love y'all and we'll see you next week.
You guys ever come out here and see